Alright, so number 7. I drew the picture here. It says use the diagram. AB is our diameter. So I'll go ahead and write that. AB is the diameter. And AB is perpendicular to CD. So we have a right triangle going on here. Alright, so they give us, I'll read it actually. It says to use the diagram. AB is the diameter and AB is perpendicular to CD. Figure's not drawn to scale. It says, it asks us to find the arc length of, or the measure of arc BD if our AC, measure of arc length AC, is 58. So this one's actually not too bad if you understand what's going on here. So an arc length, right, arc measure, I said arc length. Arc measure, and that's in degrees. And it's based on you know, the circle being 360 degrees. So so what we have is we have a diameter. What the diameter of a circle does is it actually meets, you know, right, it goes through the center of the circle, and it basically cuts it right in half, because right, we have a semicircle on top, a semicircle on bottom. So a semicircle is 180 degrees, right? And this is going to be 180 degrees. So that's important because basically we can find out the arc measure over here. So if this is 58, A to B is going to be 180 degrees, half of 360. So 58 taken away from 180 will be your, let's see, 122, right? So 122, yeah. All right, so the other thing that's going on is, since this is perpendicular, what we've basically created is a kite. If you remember from your quadrilateral days, it said if we have a quadrilateral that has perpendicular diagonals, that has to be at the very least a kite. So what is a kite? Well, a kite is a quadrilateral that has two consecutive sides congruent, or two pairs of consecutive sides congruent. So that means that this is congruent to this, and this is congruent to this. Okay? So if they're congruent, that goes back to something else we talked about, is that we have these chords that are congruent. And if the chords are congruent, that means the central angles, the corresponding central angles are congruent. Well, the corresponding central angles, though that measure is actually the measure of the arc that is intersected by the radii of the angle. So this piece right here, this arc measure here, is going to be congruent to this arc measure here, right? So the central angles, if those are congruent, then the chords are congruent. If the chords are congruent, the arc measures are congruent. If the central angles are congruent, then the arc measures are congruent. And if the arc measures are congruent, then both the chords and the central angles are congruent. So they all kind of go together, which is nice. So that means that if these are congruent, that means that this one is 58 degrees. This is congruent to this one. This will be 122 degrees. So there is your answer, 122 degrees. And let's take a look at our next one, number 8.